Welcome, everyone, to a Delco Nerd Network Rewind review, where we sit down and talk about some of our favorite film franchises of the past. On this season, we're doing a triple threat of Superman. Superman the movie, Superman Returns, finishing off with Man of Steel. Today, we are, of course, talking Superman Returns. Joining me, as always, Mr. Anthony the Gooch Ragucci.
Trio, three things are going to sell this podcast. Tragedy, sex, and Superman.
And we got tons of Superman.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it. Oh, Perry. So we're here to talk Superman Returns, initially released June 28th, 2006, with a production budget, Gooch, of, Gooch, can you just guess? I'm actually curious, what you think.
200 million.
232.
Yeah, let's go!
That's insane for 2006. I just want to say
honestly, effects, pretty good.
I will say, for having
the flying looks good.
It looks as good as you can for the time. Like, he still looks like a CGI PS2 man, but it's not as bad as I think it could be, especially for the time. With a production budget of $232 million, an opening weekend of $52 million, and a worldwide box office of $391 million, directed, of course, by Mr. Bryan Singer, written by Michael Dougherty, Dan Harris, and Bryan Singer himself. Quick description for you, Gooch. Superman returns to Earth after spending 5 years in space, examining his homeworld Krypton. But he finds that things have changed while he's gone, and he must once again prove himself important to the world. Can I just say that this whole description perfectly encapsulates how this movie has no direction?
Yeah.
He's just like, I'm coming back.
I'm back
to prove myself. That's it, truly. Yeah, I'm back. That could be the entire statement of the film.
Nothing happens.
Yeah,
conflict just sort of arises for no reason.
Let's get into it here. Superman Returns, of course, 2006, man. Let's travel back. Brandon Routh is the Man of Steel himself.
I don't remember the hubbub about this
I don't
movie.
really remember the hubbub either. They decided to give him a trash bag cape along with a weird plastic.
I don't agree with that. But
it looks so bad. I think his suit overall, I like the blue itself, but the trunks are too short. The boots are like this weird. The red is awful. Yeah. It's like this weird muted red.
Yeah.
That's like almost maroon in some lights. The yellow looks fine. The S looks fine. Are you a maroon or what? He's got some texture going on his suit, but man, just overall, they tried to modernize it in just all the worst ways for the time, in my opinion. Like, that fucking Chris Reeve Superman suit, Gooch, looks so good still. I think you could actually use, update it, make it a contemporary fabric and, make it look a little bit nicer. But I think you could take that suit and just have that be the suit. They needed to do this thing of, at the time of it's this plastic, rubbery thing that's, it's protecting him. But it's no, he's Superman. Just have it be cloth or something. Anyways, barring the suit, this is one of the most goddamn boring films I've watched in a long time.
This movie fucking sucks.
It's
fucking horrible.
I know you mentioned in the Discord, and I do think it's a bit of an issue where they just decided to continue with the Christopher Reeve stuff and the aesthetic.
Yeah. So when we were getting into this, I'm like, I remember you saying it when we recorded last week. You're like, oh, this is
a continuation.
Yeah. So it's a reboot sequel that takes.
It's a requel, Gooch.
It's a requel.
A reboot and sequel.
That takes off of Superman 2, Superman 3, and 4, Quest for Peace don't happen.
No, Superman 1 and 2 does happen, as far as
that's what I said.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying 2 and 3. Gotcha.
Yeah. 3 and 4 don't.
Right.
And yeah. So it's the Christopher Reeve Superman, but with an entirely new coat of paint.
But to put a caveat on that as well, it doesn't strictly follow 1 and 2. There are some things that it apparently
ignores. It's just remember those movies? Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, you remember the city? Yeah, you remember how it's this weird, sepia-toned,
you remember
anachronistic,
New York, Metropolis?
New York?
Yeah.
I don't know, what year
remember,
is it?
Gene Hackman, Lex Luthor? Yeah, I remember.
Here's a bit more of a, serious take on it, which, listen, for all the things I don't like about Kevin Spacey, I think he was way better, way more Lex Luthor-y than Gene Hackman was.
Sure, but I think everyone in this movie does a bad job.
Okay.
Everyone. I don't think there's one actual good thing about the movie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'd go that far.
I think this movie sucks.
I agree with you that it sucks.
Every sense of the word. I think the fact that we were going, that the core of this movie is that we're rebooting those original Superman movies is the entire problem with the movie. I think it kind of fucks the whole thing up.
Sure.
Because it's the beginning is like boring. I'm like, this is like super. Okay, like so they Krypton. They find out that Krypton like may still like parts of it may still be in space. Superman goes there for 5 years.
No, he thinks it's like still there. Like he thinks that it might still be like there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like because he wants to
Crazy.
visit them. Yeah.
So yeah, he goes there. Nothing. Comes back. Takes him 5 years, and like he's like a different person.
He apparently didn't tell anyone that he was leaving.
Yeah, like I'm just like, this doesn't feel like Christopher Reeve, Brandon Routh being Christopher Reeve Superman. It doesn't feel like that, and I feel I don't think it's Brandon Routh's fault.
I agree.
I think it's clearly the writing he had to
And the
work
direction,
with, and
yeah.
the direction was just not good.
I don't think he does a bad job of emulating Christopher Reeves and like
I
kind
think
of
he
being
does.
him. Like I think he does
seems
the bumbling.
sad the whole movie.
Right. No, that part I think I would agree with. But I
There's,
think
like,
when
he
he's like
seems
within
so much more
I think that
serious.
when he's like within, the Daily Planet and like interacting with folks especially, I think he does a good job. I don't like he's very much trying to emulate that Christopher Reeves like bumbling, like especially that moment where he goes in to hug Lois. Like I think that works. Like it was like this weird like oh my goodness.
And I also
don't know.
forgot.
I
I'm
liked
like,
all
oh
that
yeah,
stuff.
like Lois doesn't know.
She doesn't know. They decided to commit to that aspect. She apparently had a kid with Superman, but doesn't like remember. If they're going by Superman in 1 and 2, where he like does the kiss that erases her memory, she wouldn't remember that they had sex, I guess. So like she just has this child. There's a lot of like weird implications with that.
The child thing was like,
it says 2005 as you can
This
get.
is
It's like
so
we're just gonna
weird.
tease the shit out of this kid, and he kind of
she
has
married
superpowers, but he
Cyclops,
doesn't.
and
Poor James Marsden was made cuck out of twice this year with fucking X-Men 3 and then this movie. He's always getting his fucking woman stolen away from him. And it's like, if my girlfriend went on a flight with Superman, we're done.
And she's like, he's like, you were in love with Superman.
And she's
weren't
about to
you?"
kiss him, and like, are you fucking insane? That whole subplot is
Kate
so odd
Bosworth
to me.
as Lois Lane is horrible.
I
just don't like any characters in this movie. There's
Again, I
there's
don't
just
think it's
nothing
like
to
her
like.
fault. I think it's just
yeah.
the writing that she's given, and like she keeps bouncing back. Like, yeah, there's this whole idea where she's like, she writes this article about like Superman and why the world doesn't need Superman, but Gooch, it's really about why she doesn't need Superman, but she actually really does need Superman. And I don't know. It's just such an odd confluence of events, and then. Yeah, you have Lex on the side just doing his thing for like
Doing
an hour.
whatever.
They don't see each other until an hour and 12 minutes into the movie, Gooch.
Dude,
Superman and Lex.
the movie, the end of the movie is like an hour.
I wanted to kill myself. I thought it was going to end.
I was like, dude, this is so boring.
I thought it was going to end 3 times. And so the other thing that annoys me, so the whole plan of Lex here, which I actually don't like hate on its face value, but I do think it has so many plot holes. Like at the beginning when he apparently robs this woman of all her wealth, just gets her to sign it, I guess, just signs her name for her. And then he is like, all right, I'm going to build
the wig.
He has the wig. The wigs actually, I don't think look bad.
like,
He
"Here,
just
kid.
says, "Here, kid." And then
Fuck
she
you.
screams. How does he find out about the Fortress of Solitude? How does he know how any of that works? How does he get into the Fortress of Solitude? Why does it look like a big, gray, terrible, like, monument?
Why does Jor-El not know it's Superman? Because we've always understood, and every version of Superman I've seen, the Fortress of Solitude just knows it's Superman, and it's talking, the Kryptonian,
Marlon Brando's back. Bad bloke, Brando.
No, not Marlon Brando, but like the Kryptonian vision. I don't know what they're called. Like spirits.
It's like a hologram.
It's hologram.
Yeah.
Like they know who people are. Like so, like they would be able to tell. Like, oh, this isn't Superman. Like I'm not gonna say shit.
I feel
But then
like,
it just starts. Moving on.
and he's just like, tell me
And
everything.
then he just takes the crystals out.
And then Superman, by the way, hour and 20 minutes into the movie or something like that, it's like, maybe I should go check on the Fortress of Solitude. I haven't been there in 5 years. And he goes, and all the crystals are gone, and he gets very angry. But then he just goes back to the Daily Planet and starts looking for Lois.
Dude, him at the Daily, him at the Daily Planet. I was just like, this is so stupid.
They're very much trying to emulate, like, they're trying to take the
trying to
comics and put it onto the screen, like, to a degree that doesn't work on screen.
They're just trying to be that Christopher Reeve Superman movie, and it's not working.
No.
Like, it's just not working at all.
I didn't really care about Jimmy. I didn't really care about what was really going on at the paper. Hugh Laurie was apparently supposed to play Perry White at one point, but he dropped out, House himself.
Good.
And he dropped out, to his credit. But yeah, this movie just spends 2.5 hours meandering. Clark doesn't have any type of growth. He's just the guy who lands on Earth.
He's just like,
and he's
I'm
like,
Superman.
I'm Superman and I should save people.
I'm Superman and I guess I'm kind of sad.
Lois, you said that
my girlfriend got married and had a kid with somebody else.
And I cracked her picture frame like a psychopath, and then I went to spy on her like a psychopath. It's just a very
I'm gonna be real stoic about it.
I'm gonna be super stoic, and I'm gonna be kind of sad, but honestly, you can't really tell if I'm sad. It's more of just like I'm there. You know what I mean?
I kind of like the end. If anything, I like where he almost dies, and like they have the the Superman Lives, which is an homage to the comics, and Superman is dead. Is that what it's?
Yeah, Superman is dead. Yeah,
yeah, but like like the tackling of the death of Superman, and like I don't know, like the hospital and how they're trying to like save him. Like I kind of like that.
Oh no, that was I think my favorite part. Even when he's giving that speech to his son, like I thought that moment was nice when he's giving the same speech that Jor-El gave to him. I thought that was great. But you know what my favorite part, Gooch, of the ending was?
When it ended?
Was that he couldn't touch the Krypton or do any or the kryptonite or do anything with the kryptonite until he could. He just could.
Yeah.
He just could. He just was like, you know what? I can actually touch kryptonite and throw it out into space. I'm gonna lift this island up out of the fucking ground. One of the things I actually did like was his superheroing. I liked him saving people. I liked seeing that a lot. I thought that was probably one of the only really fun parts. But then there's that moment where he's just like...
It just doesn't feel like what it's supposed to be.
Sure. And I think that's a result of the rest of the movie being so bad and boring.
It feels like it's like what Henry Cavill almost kind of is in his, like, the stoicism of Superman. But
For sure.
But you don't really see that side of Superman in... I mean, definitely not in Man of Steel, but, in Snyder's stuff at all. And maybe that's why Snyder's Superman is so...
Well, he's just so focused, I feel like, on the idea of the character having to deal with these godlike abilities and like deciding whether or not he wants to be that savior. Whereas in these Superman movies, he's decided that he's going to be that person. But there isn't really any people going out there like, you're doing bad things, Superman. You're not doing... He only has the one article from Lois who was just mad at him. That's like, the world doesn't need Superman. And he's like, what I hear, Lois, from what I hear, everyone's crying out for help every day. Okay. We'll go save him, Superman. Can we fight someone else? What I really wish they did? I don't think that it's a death knell in and of itself making this a continuation of the of the Reeve stuff. I just think you have to go a different direction. You can't bring back Lex Luthor and you can't just retread old ground. He's doing another fucking land thing. He did that in Superman 1. He was going to fight. We talked about this.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck he's
thinking.
thinking.
So his idea is like he's going to make a new continent and kill like America.
Yeah. By the way, what are you doing on that weird crystalline island? That terrible, like, black crystal place? Like, you're just sitting in a room? Like, what? And then he's talking about all this, like, Kryptonian technology that he'd use to defend himself and stuff like that. And it's like, can we see some of that? Like, is there any...
Right, like, but even the Forces of Solitude is just, like...
That's what I was saying,
Glass Palace.
And it's so
Crystal
gray.
Palace.
It's so gray and boring, Gooch. I wanted to tear my eyes out. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah,
even the fortress in Reeves Superman, it's blue and colorful. It feels a bit.
I mean, it also just got made.
Also, and by the way, it's like
fresh
just
out
as,
of the womb.
It's like just as empty, but like it doesn't feel nearly as empty and like cold as I guess this one's supposed to be. And I think that's probably a directorial choice and like an artistic choice. They want this to be a monument, like they're saying, his fortress of solitude. But I don't know. Like, also, make it a bit more interesting.
We trashed Otis and Eve Tessmacher for Elizabeth Banks. That's Elizabeth Banks, right?
Is that Elizabeth Banks?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh my god.
And Harold.
Yeah.
like.
So by the way, he was supposed to play a much more pivotal role, which I'll get into in fun facts.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
because
you
can
see,
and I'm gonna check here in a sec. You might be right. Now that I'm thinking about it, it does make sense. But
it looks
you
like
can tell though throughout like the movie, like he's his second in command guy, but there really isn't much to that. Harold.
Yeah,
because he's like always giving him looks, and like he's the guy who drops.
But he has like no lines.
He has no lines. You don't know anything. All of his goons. I did like his one goon that started playing the piano with Superman's child.
With the Joker's head on the back. Did you like the Gotham mention?
There was one Gotham mention.
So was that supposed to be like Batman Begins? Like, was there supposed to be like something there?
I don't think so. I think the more like this was still the time.
It's just like, haha, Easter egg.
We're gonna reference it. Yeah, like oh, Gotham's there, of course.
It's kind of like the Arkham Batman games mentioning Metropolis.
Right.
Feels like the same thing.
But yeah, again, just to speak to the world a bit, like what year is it? Because everyone has
that's a good question.
Everyone has computers, everyone has cell phones, but they're very like, I don't know,
2006.
Yeah, but maybe even like old, like they even feel almost older than that for 2006. I don't know. They almost feel like they're trying to go for what Batman the Animated Series does, like where it's like this kind of anachronistic like time period where there's old style cars, but there's kind of some new technology.
There's a plot in the Superman animated series where he goes into space and leaves for a little while, and that reminded me of this. I'm curious if like they took from that, and it's like, oh yeah, like he's gonna go and come back. Like it's not as, I don't think it's quite as harsh. Like I think it's like an episode or two where he goes to Krypton, or like goes to find Krypton, or goes in space for some reason, has some space episode. But like it reminded me of that, of like this big deal where like I think forget the doctor's name in that show. He's in Man of Steel, so I'll remember his name then. But he like helps Superman get into space and like get back there.
I see.
Yeah, kind of reminded me of that, but I'm just like, this sucks. You know, like why did Superman leave? Like that, I think that on its principle is fine, but like they did not execute on the impact of that return.
Everyone's just like, oh, he's back. That's great. And we don't really know what the world thought about when he left or why he left.
I think also like the opening credits being exactly what Superman the movie was is also bad. Like I think it's just giving you this impression that the movie is something else that it's not.
See,
like,
I think
it's just trying to be something it's not.
It's trying to be something and it just doesn't succeed. Like it's like a poor man's imitation.
Yeah.
Which is the unfortunate problem. And I think if they took this in a more specific and different direction, especially by using someone, I don't know, there's a lot of ideas that they had for this movie that they didn't go with that Gooch sound way more interesting than what the fuck we got.
Which is probably why I think people don't remember or talk about it, because there's nothing memorable to remember.
That's the thing. I don't think this movie isn't remembered for being, being super bad, which it is. I think it's just more remembered for being unmemorable. People were like, that was a boring 2.5 hour movie.
We talk about Brandon Routh being Superman, and I think that is because he came back as Adam and Arrow, eventually would go into Legends of Tomorrow, eventually would be a version of Superman in Crisis on Infinite Earths in that show. And he is great as the Atom, and he's great as Superman in those episodes. Like
that's one of my favorite suits. That fucking Kingdom Come suit that he wears. It looks so
He looks
good.
so much better.
Well, he looks more mature, obviously.
Also, the age of Routh compared to Reeves don't line up. Routh seems younger in this than Superman.
And I think
like
he is,
Superman seems like he's in his 30s.
But again, remember, Goose, this isn't a direct. It's like it kind of is, but it isn't. Like this is almost like another reality of Reeves' version. If I almost look at it, you know what I mean? Like it's almost like another dimensional version of Reeves' universe. That's still going on somewhere else and probably progressed normally.
Sure.
But even like Reeves at the time, again, getting back to the world, like
he was
it just
still
felt
alive,
like 19.
Right? No.
Yeah. I think he died like right before this came out.
He would have been.
And I'm pretty confident this was like
glad.
singer directed, or he like what's the word?
I'm glad
dedicated
he was
this.
alive.
Yeah, I'd actually really be curious to see what he thought. Again, I don't know. I think Routh's performance for what they were trying to accomplish, like he's doing the Reeves thing, but is it working with everything around him, and does the overall movie conduce to that? No, it doesn't. And I just don't think it accomplishes what it wants to. And I wish it did something like tried for like even a real Zod or like a Brainiac, something like that was like very interesting.
Anything.
Not just Lex Luthor just planning again.
I think that's a problem with Superman in general in the movies. It's Lex Luthor and like that's it.
And then even Zod again in the next one.
But like, yeah, true. But like, yeah, I mean, I haven't watched Superman 2 yet, so I can't really comment on the Zod. But yeah, Snyder does Zod, you know, and then he does Doomsday and Lex Luthor. Yeah. But like, I think it's hard. It's hard to do Superman and start with like, I mean, we haven't seen Brainiac except for like the House of L. What was that show called?
Yeah. Krypton. I think it was just called Krypton.
Yeah.
Which actually wasn't an awful show.
And they do I've never seen it still.
I will say, like, for
Cameron
how
Cuff,
stupid and odd it was, like the concept is, it actually like worked surprisingly well.
I haven't heard about Cameron Cuff in a while.
Yeah, me neither.
He used to be on like Kind of Funny a lot, and I remember him like, you know, being in like my sphere. But yeah, I haven't heard anything from that guy in a while.
Interesting.
But yeah, it's just like, why not do Parasite or Brainiac or like, you know, anybody else?
I think that's a problem of the time, and even
So
we saw
iconic.
it with The Dark Knight. This was the era of it needs to be real. It needs to feel like it could be real, Gooch. We can't have like a silly parasite man running around or Brainiac.
Purple
Are you
parasite?
crazy? I feel like that was a real downfall of this era. And you know what? I shouldn't say that because I think it's what gave us the ability to see something like Superman, what we're seeing now, where they are truly and fully leaning into what that character is. He's a science fiction fantasy character. All comic books really are. They're fully embracing that world. Whereas this was just like, no, he's the Superman, and he's just Superman, and he's the only hero around, and everything else is normal, and he's saving people from trees, or saving cats from trees, and stopping bank robberies and all that stuff. There's no aliens or anything like that besides him. Just him. That's it. I don't get it. It's the same thing even with Batman Begins. Like that was, and I think it works. And I think, Batman's more conducive to that.
Yeah, it's a much more different
He's a very much more realistically grounded character, so that's easier to do that with. But I don't know, man. It's very boring.
I'm so surprised at just how bad this movie is.
Yeah.
Like I just wasn't expecting it. I'm like, I expected to get something out of this.
Well, and I really think that's a result of Superman in the 90s, especially. We were talking about it, just going through so many different creative hands and them just not knowing what to do with them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hear what you have to say about that.
And they didn't know where to take the character, and they were like, do we finish with Reeves' stuff, or do we continue that, or do we try to really go something bold and new, which that's what J.J. Abrams' script was, and I'll get into that. I just don't think they knew which way to go, and Singer came in and was like, let's just try the old stuff again. And they were like, you know what? Sounds good to us. Let's do it. Let's try it out.
Do you have any Bryan Singer fun facts?
They're not so fun.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, we haven't talked about the Bryan Singer of it, which is interesting at this point. But I'll wait.
He obviously directed X-Men 1 and 2. He ended like a multi-picture deal with Fox at the time. He was supposed to direct X-Men 3 to do this, and I think that actually caused him some big issues at the time. But we'll get more into him in here in a minute. Anything else on the movie, Gooch? This boring movie.
Yeah, it's funny. I really just don't have much nice to say. I think it's kind of like a low tier flick. I think I would put Superman the movie at a high tier movie.
I would agree with that.
Or maybe mid tier.
I don't know. I'd actually go low tier film because of everything it's like done for the genre and just for movies in general. That kind of feeds into it for me a little.
Okay. It's definitely not a film, but all right.
It's absolutely a film, Gooch. I don't know. Like I do
know.
think it like it's a classical film. Like if that's not a film, I don't really know what is. And I think
the gray space between high tier movie and high tier or low tier film is so.
I just think like you got to take into account when it was made, what it's done for everything that's come after it.
Yeah.
I think that very much earns the film.
But this is just like I can't in good conscience mid tier or high tier flick it. Like it's a low tier. It's just so bad.
I'm trying to like think of my other low tier flicks and like what like to compare it. And I guess it would the highest I would go is mid tier flick. But it's just so fucking boring.
What's Madam Web?
Madam Web's a high tier flick because we had fun with it.
What's Craven?
Again, this is so nebulous and like
because I was thinking about that because like Craven especially, I'm like that movie was bad. I really didn't like it, but like I was somewhat entertained. A tiny bit. And like with Venom, I was definitely entertained. I remember talking about that on the review. But I'm like, the rest of the movie's bad, but it was entertaining. This wasn't entertaining at all.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, so like that's kind of where like there's no entertainment value.
There was like one or two bright spots for me here and there.
And you know what's funny? I think the biggest thing the movie has for it is that bullet getting shot into his eye. Like that's the most famous scene from this movie.
And the catching the plane I would say is relatively famous too.
Sure.
But even that, everyone's dead on that plane. First off.
Oh,
Second
dude, they're thrown around.
I mean, Lois is dead the first time she gets thrown. So let's just start there. Like, again, I know there's a great Grant Morrison quote. I wish I had it. I think I saved a picture of it. And it's just talking about like kids. It's like kids don't, when they see a man fly in a comic, they don't question it. But adults will start asking you questions about it 100 times. And I think that's very emblematic of most things these days. Like, everything doesn't need to be super logical, but when it like passes a point of no return, especially with her like getting thrown around the airplane, I'm like, all right, let's just rein it in a little bit, like maybe make it a tiny bit more. Oh! And then when all
like
of the
clear
seats
across the cabin,
all of the seats go and crush each other, like everyone's legs are broken. What are we doing here? Everyone's getting off that thing. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I will say the CG for the time, pretty good, as good as you can get, especially when you're making a fully CG human being. just what it's going to be. But let's get in some fun facts, Gooch. Does that sound good?
Yep. Let's have some fun with very unfun movie.
Okay. So yeah, Bryan Singer, not a great guy. X-Men 1 and 2, of course. He was unfortunately dismissed from, not unfortunately, he just was dismissed from Bohemian Rhapsody when it was being filmed. He was the original director.
Yeah, that's when it
for
all
lots of
went
issues.
down.
Yeah, he was apparently possibly doing some drugs allegedly doing drugs on set or like on drugs. And there were some allegations of abuse that you can look into that I won't get into. Again, just not fun stuff. So let's get back to the more kind of fun side.
Yeah.
The idea of the Superman, the idea for a Superman film took many shapes throughout the 90s, passing from Tim Burton with Superman Lives to Joseph McGinty Nicol.
Superman Lives is Nicolas Cage.
Right.
Yeah.
To Joseph McGinty Nicol, better known as McG, with Superman Flyby.
Excuse me?
Written by none other than J.J. Abrams, a young J.J. Abrams, if you will.
What was J.J. Abrams' first big film? Star Trek?
I think so, that he directed, but I think he was like an up-and-comer like screenwriter and director for a while.
Okay.
I think he had directed other things before, though. I don't know for sure. So Abrams wrote an initial draft for his version of Superman that Singer declined to shoot. His story reimagined Superman as a Kryptonian prince sent to Earth as a baby to avoid an impending civil war between King Jor-El and his brother Kata-Zor. The film would culminate with Kata-Zor invading Earth, aided by CIA agent Lex Luthor, who Gooch was actually a Kryptonian in disguise. It would have ended with Superman.
What is this, like Red Sun?
It would have ended with Superman returning to Krypton to rule over his people after the death of Jor-El.
What the fuck?
Singer was like, "What the fuck is this?" Rightfully
what the
so.
Fuck?
Yeah, I don't know. It's very wild. Like, and he becomes
That's
Superman.
crazy.
I think he would have only been like a teen in the movie. Would have been the idea. Yeah,
that's insane.
I saw this fact and I was like, "This can't be real." And I looked it up, like, because I was like, I'm using ChatGPT too, but I always double check when it gives me something. I'm just like, what else is on here? Like, because I was like, what was J.J. Abrams' like script idea? And it showed this, and I was like, there's no way. And I was looking around like, yeah, Screen Rant had a whole article about it.
That's crazy.
So,
it sounds like some sort of Elseworlds comic.
It does. I'm surprised it actually hasn't been written.
The FBI Lex Luthor, I think, is a take from The New Frontier.
Yeah, but I mean, you heard me about the Kryptonian part too, right?
Yeah,
he would have been a Kryptonian. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
which is again like Red Sun.
Yeah. Is he a Kryptonian in Red Sun?
At the end, it all ties back around.
Oh, that's right. I forget because he's just a right. That's fuck. Don't spoil. Actually, read Red Sun.
Yeah, sorry.
Wow, I totally forgot about that. That is really great.
Yeah.
That was the original concept for Superman. Was that he was that he was a time traveler really instead. So, but
that's a wild comic.
Yeah, it is. It's a great. You're making me want to reread it now, honestly. So Burton's Superman Lives was based on a script by Kevin Smith. The movie would have started with Superman. This is Death of Superman. Would have started with Superman dying in a battle with Doomsday and his subsequent resurrection by the Eradicator. He returns unsure of his identity, and the villains Brainiac and Lex Luthor, who plot to block out the sun to weaken him, were involved. The project would have starred Nicolas Cage, but was scrapped in 1998 due to budget issues as well as creative differences. There's, of course, a documentary that I believe is called The Death of Superman Lives, which really covers this in depth. You have to like buy it off a website. It's made by a pretty famous director, if I'm not mistaken. I want to check it out. It seems very 90s. It seems wild. It's Nick Cage with long hair. We see it in The Flash. That scene where he fights the big spider. That was an idea for it. Yeah.
So Superman, Reign of the Supermen without Steel and Superboy.
Right. It would have just been the Eradicator, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. So Cal Penn, a.k.a. Harold from Harold and Kumar, was originally meant to play a larger role in the film. He was going to be revealed to be a disgraced former Daily Planet science reporter who was bribed by Lex Luthor to plant false evidence of Krypton's possible survival, thus inspiring Superman to leave for Earth and explore Krypton's ruins.
That would make so much more sense.
That's like one of those little key things, like,
that's like a Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition.
I was gonna say where like a line makes actually a major difference in like a character's motivations and how the story unfolds.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that is actually interesting. So Bryan Singer is on record as saying Superman Returns is a loose follow-up to Superman and Superman 2, of course, but does not follow these movies' continuities strictly, while strictly ignoring 3 and 4 as well. However, there is a reference to Supergirl. Yeah. Which is released...
In Returns?
Somewhat. So it's kind of... I don't think this is really a reference. So there's a radio announcer reports in Supergirl that Superman is off on a mission in space during that film.
Again,
I think that's kind of just happy coincidence there that lines up. But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Okay, in Supergirl. I thought you meant Supergirl was mentioned in Return.
No. So, a very specific type of spandex was used for the material of Superman's suit. It is called milliskin. Unfortunately, this material restricts movement and when new, and even sags after being worn, becoming very uncomfortable. As a result, 80 suits were made, 100 capes, 30 boots, and 90 belts were all created for the production.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, they were just sagging and getting loose after a while. Again, that suit, it's so bad. I hate it so much.
I don't even think it's bad. I just think it's like, okay.
I actually think if you change the material on the cape and make the red brighter, it's like a 70% better suit. So
I have like no opinions about it.
It really annoyed me. I don't know why I couldn't stop staring at it. And then Brandon Routh's like hourglass figure. I don't know.
Yeah, what like Brandon Routh looks like actually I feel like his physique is very Christopher Reeve.
100%.
Which is fine, and I don't think he looks bad, but he just looks too young.
Yeah, I think
Cavill is young in Man of Steel, but like he doesn't look that young.
I think he almost looks like, and I know people are saying this about Corn Sweat and Cavill, and I think that's more because, you know, they both look like Superman. I legitimately think him and Reeves, like the jawline and everything, is so almost spot on that it's kind of scary. Like I really do think he looks like almost exactly like him. I think it's kind of crazy. So
you haven't mentioned the contacts.
Gooch. You must be reading my mind, because that was my name.
Yeah.
So Routh wore blue contacts during the entirety of this film, which I could not fucking stop staring at, to match his comic counterpart, of course, Superman, who had blue eyes. And, you know, Reeves obviously had blue eyes. That was just by happenstance. Corn Sweat, blue eyes. I didn't realize.
Yeah. Brown,
right?
I
believe. Yeah.
Well, but also, I think that's like such a stupid detail. You know, like it's kind of like
it's so of the time. They're like,
it's kind of like James Bond when Craig was casted because like he was blonde.
This is such a weird time because I've said this 1,000 times.
Which is actually the same year.
This is the era where they'll make a Green Lantern movie where he's going to wear blue and never create a construct. But they want Superman to make sure he's wearing blue contacts. No one's noticing. No one's caring. No one's paying attention.
I was thinking about last night, like the Superman Son plot line. We've only really seen, this is totally off topic. We've only really seen that once, and it's in film TV, and it's Superman and Lois.
Yeah, it's true.
And I think they do the Superman having kids thing very good in that show. I mean, they're older. They're, you know, they're doing a lot more with it.
Right.
But like, we've never really seen Superman having a son in any sort of on-screen appearance besides that show.
No, it's true. And even in the comics, I mean, I feel like his son's kind of more recently started to really take a front seat, and John has become Superman in some of the comics. So I think that is kind of, you know, emblematic of the time, and even the comics where that just wasn't explored that often. Mm-hmm. And even like Superboy was back in the day was just Superman, but as a kid, if I'm not mistaken. Like those were the first comics where it was just, you know, showing him as a child. But I do think it's an interesting idea to have him not be, and they talk about this idea that he's alone, and he has this moment with his mom, and she's like, honey, you're never alone. And then by the end, he's not. He has another Kryptonian, and he has his son. He's gotten him through some very odd manners, but he has a son, and he has someone else to call family.
Seems a bit weird.
Yeah.
Like he's like autistic or something.
I don't mean that.
I don't mean that in a bad way.
I think it's not even that he's. It doesn't even seem that. It's that he's like, what's the word? He's like a hypochondriac almost. Like she has him on all these things, and he has the inhaler and everything, and it makes sense. It's because he's trying to get used to the atmosphere. He's half Kryptonian, so I think that's interesting. And like, I think the idea of Superman works better when his powers start to happen as he gets older, because you wouldn't want a child with super strength and all that stuff. Like he kind of develops them throughout his thing.
Brightburn.
Yeah, and even, you know, fucking Homelander and everything. It's all right. It's fine. I saw it. That's like a James Gunn produced movie. But I think it's an interesting idea of like tackling a bad Superman. I forget where else I was going with that. We're just gonna go on to some more facts.
Okay. Sure.
So Bryan Singer sought out Jude Law heavily for the role of General Zod, but after declining on multiple occasions, Singer eventually wrote the character out of the script completely.
Thank God.
Yeah.
That would have been even probably worse. It probably would have made the movie isn't a mess, per se. You can kind of figure out what's going on, but like, if this movie was like convoluted, ooh.
But I don't even feel like this movie was convoluted. It was just...
No, it's not. That's what I'm saying. It's
boring.
Not.
Yeah.
But like, imagine if it was.
Yeah, like him coming back from the Phantom Zone. Yeah, I'm sure people at the time were even like, man, can we see Superman like punch like another person.
There is no action.
There's
in this.
well, it's all just him saving people, and it's like him like saving the plane. There's nothing. There's not like
he's
a
not
fight
fighting.
scene, and
Yeah.
I think that's a major issue with Superman at this time, where they didn't like.
He didn't fight people.
He didn't fight people, and he didn't have anyone really mad. Like, he is invincible. He just is. Like, and there is really no getting at him besides kryptonite, which apparently doesn't work when he doesn't want it to. Like, he can just push it out of space. And that's one thing I'm excited to see in Superman, in James Gunn's Superman, where the world seems to have caught up with Superman a little bit. Like, I mean, Argus knows how to kind of maybe keep him under wraps a little, or they can sort of put up a fight with him a little bit.
I mean, that's kind of, I think, a point we've talked about in the past. We really like with Man of Steel, of like him going up against the other Kryptonians, and he feels like he's fighting Kryptonians.
Well,
you know, he's evenly matched.
And I can't wait to get into like, I think those are the first movies that we saw a true like good depiction of two superhuman people like fighting,
Also,
like the physics of it.
Also, the music sucks, and it's because they're just reusing John Williams stuff, and it doesn't feel appropriate.
Right,
Like, again, trying to be something it's not. Or trying to be something it shouldn't be.
and it's not a yeah.
This isn't a Christopher Reeves movie. Stop using that original score. I didn't like when, fuck Danny Elfman, he tried, he did that for Justice League. He's like, Batman only has one theme. It's like, shut the fuck up, dude. No, clearly you're wrong. And they did it with The Flash.
Can I just say, I do think, like, if you put the Batman theme from Batman vs. Superman in front of a normal person, they'd be like, what is that? But if you put
art.
the Batman... No, by the way, I completely agree. I think that theme's 20 times better.
I mean, dude, Hans
But,
Zimmer's
like,
score
you
from
know-
Man of Steel is fucking
right.
iconic.
But if you put that in front of someone, most people aren't going to know what that is. But if you put the Superman theme in front of someone, they know what that is. If you put the Batman theme in front of someone, they know what that is.
It's like they're too too member-berry and too like, let's just reuse all this old stuff.
No, I agree.
You know?
And I would have kind of liked to see them move away from that, even with the new Superman movie. Like, they are updating the theme. But I don't disagree. And I think that's just, emblematic of how this movie just doesn't accomplish what it sets out to do. It's just a fact, unfortunately. So there were a few ideas tossed around about a possible sequel to this movie. One involving Brainiac following Superman back to Earth after his visit to the Kryptonian remains. Another involving...
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Would have been cool.
Cool.
Maybe that should have been this movie.
What a concept.
Oh my god, like, maybe that could have been a cool film for the first one. Another one involving Darkseid in some fashion. I couldn't really find much.
I think that's too much.
See,
I think they like, Snyder did Darkseid really well in Justice League. Like, oh my god, perfect casting, just the way he looks. It's great.
I just don't think you can.
I think it's too much.
Well,
yeah.
I also just think you'd have to do it real. Like, you'd have to put someone in a costume back then.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that could have. I would have loved to see that, just to see what it is. Like, what does that look like? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What does Donner's super dark side look like, or the idea of that look like? That sounds cool to me. Again, very cool idea for maybe the first movie. So Jack Larson plays the bartender chatting with Jimmy and Clark when they are having a drink on company time, mind you. He is also known for his role as Jimmy Olsen on The Adventures of Superman from 1952, the original serial with George Reeves. So, like, the show. So that was cool. Yeah, he's just a little cameo there. Henry Cavill, Brendan Fraser, and Matt Bomer were all considered for the lead role when the film was being developed by director McGee. Routh really seemed to be Singer's top choice all along when it comes to this version of the character. I didn't really.
So who was it? Cavill,
Cavill, Fraser, and Matt Bomer. I don't think Bomer would have.
Matt Bomer, interesting.
You,
That's such
you
an
know him, right?
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. He's in a
Invisible Man. No.
Yeah, he is the Invisible Man, but he's in Doom Patrol.
Yeah, as Invisible Man.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm saying.
Yeah. He seems a bit. I don't think he's that old.
So, do you know why he probably wouldn't have gotten cast at the time? I don't know if he was at this time openly, but he's gay.
Yeah, I know.
And I think he's. I don't know if he was open out at the time, but I would have been surprised. Like,
yeah, that would have been pretty insane
for the time. And I even today, like, I'd be not that I'd necessarily be against it or anything like that, but like, just especially with the way people act now. Maybe back in 2012 it would have been different, but like, if you cast a gay actor as Superman, I think just the stupid outrage would be everywhere, just from the regular suspect. I mean, dude, we saw fucking an Asian woman in Intergalactic, and people were like, "What the fuck? What is happening? Why are you doing this? I don't know anything else about this game, but fuck you."
Oh yeah,
yeah, for a Heretic Prophet
with Tati Gabriel.
Right, yeah,
Gabriel?
playing like the main character. They're like, that's a woman in my game. What's happening?
It's because she's bald.
No, it's just,
Like,
it's so fucking
problem.
silly.
Like, you're not the problem. It's just if she had hair, you guys wouldn't be saying anything.
It's so fucking stupid.
Ugh.
So we of course see Routh reprise his role as Clark Kent / Superman in the CW's Crisis on Infinite Earth. He seems to be like it doesn't seem to be like this
not.
specific version.
He's not.
It's
Yeah.
like another multiversal version of that Clark who's kind of moved on. One of the best Superman suits out there. And it's hilarious because he goes from one of the worst to one of the best. Maybe the best.
Yeah.
I fucking love that suit.
Dude, like he looks so good.
It's
in that.
like you could have pulled him off the page.
He did.
The gray, the salt and pepper in his hair and
he did
everything.
a really good job. I mean,
Amazing.
I just didn't think honestly, I just don't think Routh had the acting chops for the role. I think it was too much. Like he just seems to like not really know what to do. But maybe it's a part direction, maybe it's part writing, maybe it's part him.
I was gonna say, like, for me, again, it's not his performance that was bad for me. It was the setup of the character and the decisions the character was making. I think he was playing the Brandon Routh Superman or the Chris Reeve Superman as good as you can, but you always will risk like going on what's like impersonation, like leaning into that aspect, and that doesn't work either. So I don't know, Gooch. We lost 2.5 hours of our lives yesterday.
You know what?
I'm glad we did watch it. I am actually glad I watched it though, just to have like a fully cognizant memory of the film.
You know what's kind of fucked? I'm like really excited to move on for Christopher Reeve stuff already. I think this movie put such a bad taste in my mouth.
That's unfortunate, yeah. Because I love Superman. I gotta say, I did. I really enjoyed that first one.
I don't love it. But yeah, it's like maybe it's very clear that's why I like Man of Steel and like Henry Cavill.
You like the more
Superman.
dour approach?
Because
this is
it's
pretty
not
dour.
That I think it's just. I mean, Snyder's take on the character is so much different than these takes, where like Superman's like a god, and like the writing and treats him as such.
Yeah.
Like I mean, especially in Batman v Superman,
For sure.
And I mean, I guess
He loves his
Zod
imagery.
Kind of tells him he is one, and he should be one. But he's not. But he
Well, he has
is.
to choose, like, and that
And
one
he
he's
has to
really
choose, yeah,
between his Kryptonian heritage and his human heritage.
Right,
and
right.
Again, it's a lot more stoic and a lot more self-evaluating. What's the word I'm looking for? A lot more introspective of a Superman. And I don't know. I think that there's a fair balance, and I just didn't. The aspect of the Man of Steel stuff that I don't love is that he is just so like, should I like? It's this question of like, should I even save people? Like, do they need me? Like, I do hate that line with Martha Kent where she's like, save them or don't. You don't know these people a thing. Like,
I love that scene.
Like, I don't know. That's not.
I think it's because of like
that's not what Superman is.
Sure, but it's what he is in that movie where
Right,
they're
yeah.
reacting to, and that's from Batman v Superman. That's not even.
Yeah.
That's not even from Man of Steel, but like it's the reaction to him as like they're spray painting alien on his statue, and it's like there's this backlash against him, and it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess you really don't owe those people anything. You like realistically, sure, but like it's not. It's a very different kind of mindset.
Absolutely.
A very different, just a different
And
kind of
I think you're
approach
either going
to
to
it all.
jive with that or not. And I mean, I love Man of Steel looking back, and I'm excited to talk about it, really.
Yeah,
So, I will get into that more next week, of course.
Yeah.
But this has been a grand time, Gooch.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. We're streaming this live on twitch.tv/Delco Network. We usually don't stream these rerun reviews, but we're kind of doing this one a bit differently. You can find us everywhere with an @ at Delco Nerds, facebook.com/Delco Nerd Network. And as well, you can catch this podcast anywhere podcasts are found, really. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it, we're on it. Also, youtube.com/Delco Nerd Network if you want the video version of this podcast, as well as many others. You can join us on our Discord channel, which is in the description of every podcast. And you can find all this information at our website, DelcoNerdNetwork.com. Our email is also on there, and so you can email us at DelcoNerds@gmail.com. Questions, concerns, thoughts, maybe submissions for topic ideas later in the future. We might take it into consideration. We appreciate you reaching out if you do. My name is Anthony Ragucci. That's Chris Trio. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay nerdy, and we'll see you next time.
See you on Krypton.